Hello, everybody. Welcome. We are here to talk about A Court of Wings and Ruin by Sarah J. Maas. Yeah, this is gonna be fun. We can never get more than like 3 of us on a live stream together, though. But it's fine. Like, it's always someone has work, someone's sick, it happens. But we've got Izzy here this month, which is very exciting. And yeah,
Yes.
looking forward to talking about this. So, got Jess, Izzy. How did this go? Izzy, you just finished this.
Yeah, I literally finished with 40 minutes to spare. In true me fashion, anyone that does any readathon thing with me, I am always finishing with moments to spare. My brain can't. I can't be ahead. Nor can I recall a thing if I'm too far ahead. You know what I mean? It's the ADHD. Yeah. I cannot manage it, and I try. It was fun. I did the graphic audios because I was wrong, and we had all 3 out in graphic audio. They came out last December.
Okay.
Apparently. I don't know. I read dates wrong. Go figure. But yeah, I had fun. I forgot how much happens in this book and how much it was a setup for what's to come when we read Throne of Glass. That's my non-spoiler thoughts.
Throne of Glass?
When we go back to the Throne. Yeah, when we go back to that series. Because this is so heavy on battles and stuff.
Yeah.
I feel like you see working some of what we're going to see as we continue in that series out as far as scenes.
That's interesting.
It just feels like what she not what she's building to. It's I feel like her practice in writing that sort of stuff, the fighting and the battles.
Yeah.
It's kind of,
I would argue
you're seeing the beginnings of that all combining.
No, I think that's true. I do think, though, for a book that's supposedly about a war, there's relatively little actual war.
Oh, absolutely.
But
no, absolutely.
But yeah,
you just I see the echoes of things that we're gonna see. I feel like.
No, I think that's
there's
true.
a lot of politics and a lot too much Tamlin.
You know what?
Still too much Tamlin.
I don't hate him so much right now. Right this minute, I don't hate him so much. Give me time.
Okay.
As always, this was my first time reading through, so it was a fun new experience for me. I just finished today too. I finished at 4:00, so I'm not doing much better than you. And it was a time. I wept. I laughed. I kicked my feet and giggled. I mean, you know what I mean? You were there. Yeah. You know.
Yeah.
It was a fun time.
It is. There's a lot. There's a lot of character stuff.
That makes
There's
sense for this.
Of relationships, romantic and otherwise, I feel are always the focus of this series, which I think is interesting. Yeah. There's a lot I want to talk about. Hi, Jessica. Hello. I'm so glad you're ready for it. Yes, a lot of build up to the war and very little of the actual war that ended pretty quickly. I would agree with that. And then again, I would reiterate, this is why I would say that this series, unlike Throne of Glass, is a romance primarily.
Yeah.
You know, it's not primarily.
I mean, the war is there, and I feel like while it does, it's not over in a day. It's multi-day thing, but you also have to remember that it's very magic heavy. And so, how long does it take to have a war when you have unlimited power? You know what I mean? How long does a war take when you have people who can just wipe out half of a field of people in 5 seconds? It can't take that long. True. It's not like you have to walk up to each person individually and stab them and then walk to the next one. That would take a long time.
And as somebody who is not a huge fan of lengthy, in-depth war scenes, I'm kind of okay with this approach.
Yeah, I'm fine with it.
Same
about war. So,
yeah, same.
How did you guys end up feeling about this in comparison to the last book or books in the series? How did you rate it? Did it change if you were rereading it?
I actually don't know how and yet rated this higher than A Court of Mist and Fury. I don't know how that happened.
Okay.
Maybe it's because I rated this on the day that I read it and the other one I took a few days before I rated it.
Okay.
Could be. You know, even though my rating scale is detailed, it's also emotionally adjustable. But it was like A Court of Mist and Fury was a 4.25 and this was a 4.5. So it's like
similar.
Very similar. To me, I think because I'm reading them so close together, again, as not someone who read them as they came out, it was just like a continuous book. Like it was just one really, really long book. So
okay.
Ridiculously long.
It was long.
I don't know my rating. I think overall this series for me, like the main 3 books are probably like around a 4 as a whole now. They used to be definitely like 6-star favorites, but like I feel like I've read a lot of better things since, and I'm like, this is still good. But I don't know if it's like 5-star good still. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
yeah, and I think
probably around a 4-ish, 4.5.
Yeah, I feel like
did like this one more on reread.
Sorry, what? Oh no.
Oh, I liked this one more on reread for sure than I did the first time I read it.
Okay. Yeah, it's interesting because I think in my initial review of this one, this is the first one in the series I had actually reviewed when I read it. And I said it was my favorite of the 3, which I don't feel that way anymore. I think it's probably the one I rated the lowest. It was like a 4-star. Like I still enjoyed it, but I think it's interesting that this was my favorite, but also I wasn't really a romance reader at the time that I read the series the first time around. I don't know.
Well, I think too that this, while we all know that there are additional books in the series, I feel like this feels like a finale to a series. And I don't know about you, but I do tend to rate those higher than other books in the series, especially if I was like cool with the outcome, because that finale is typically like more harder hitting, emotional wise. And I know that like emotions play a lot into how I rate books. So like overall, I would say it is like a 4-star series, not like a 5, because I gave like 3.75, 4.25, 4.5. So it is like a 4-star series overall with where we're at so far. But yeah, I feel like this felt like the end of a series, and then therefore those typically get higher rated for me. So
that's fair. I often rate middle books in series higher, actually, now that I think about it. So that's interesting.
It is weird because usually those are the ones that people rate lower because they're
I
usually
know. I'm weird about, yeah. Yeah, this one is worth rereading. ACOWAR is a bit higher, found family vibes, but this was a great. Yeah, I like the found family vibes. I think I liked that about ACOWAR too. Where to start with this? So much happens.
I know, like as I was reading it, I was just like, over the last 2 days, I was like, there's so much happening. I don't even know how to process it.
It's a lot. I don't know. Where do people want to start? Do we want to talk plot? Do we want to talk about specific characters? Nesta, are people liking Nesta better? I love Nesta.
I like Nesta. Nesta had me in tears. She was like the one person who was actually fighting for innocent people. Like she actually gave a shit, which was not what we've seen of her personality in the past. So I really liked that aspect. Getting to see something different from her was good.
You definitely get the run up to her being the next character in like A Court of Silver Flames. I feel like in this, in a good way, like it's obvious we're getting like more likable elements and traits to see, because I think, she's very unlikable, which is not a bad thing. But I definitely like rereading it. I was like, oh, I see us setting up her book even more.
Yeah, absolutely. No, she's my favorite. Disliked her the other 2 books, really liked how much she stood up to Reese and Cassian and how she really cared about helping people. Yeah, I would agree with that. I think that's one thing I like about her is she like isn't gonna take shit from anybody.
Exactly.
Yeah, I kind of like it. I also I kind of the other thing too. I had forgotten a lot about Elaine in this book.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I had forgotten the whole thing of her having these weird visions. I was like, "Oh, yeah." Thoughts on that, and what are we trying to set up for her in a future book? Because I feel like she goes from this to being like, I don't know, kind of almost I remember her as being, like, almost, like, catatonic kind of in Court of Silver Flames. Am I wrong about that?
No, I think you're right.
I mean, I could see how,
Yeah.
based off of everything that happened in this book, the way that she stabbed a guy through the neck. Like, that's going to be traumatizing for anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So we've dealt with Feyre's trauma in book 2. We've dealt with a lot of Nesta's trauma in book 3. So it would make sense to deal with Elaine's trauma in the next book. So that that would track.
Yeah, because you got to set her up for her book, right?
Yeah.
So we have to process that. I think it was interesting seeing her on page. I forgot how much I dislike her to an extent. So I just find her frustrating, I guess, because like she's so at times unwilling to listen. Rightfully so. Like I understand, but again, like I feel like I don't know. The world around you is like about to blow up. Like get it together for like 5 seconds, please.
Yeah, it takes them a while to figure out that she is having visions, I feel.
Yeah.
And I don't know. And the interactions between her and Lucian. I'm curious to see what they're gonna do with her. Like what is happening in her internal world
Mm-hmm.
that is hopefully gonna be more compelling than I think what we're seeing externally.
Yeah.
That definitely was interesting. Yes. Yeah, I agree. Like on a reread, there were things that really stood out to me more this time as well that I didn't.
In 300 years, when I reread this book, or in 2026, which is when it will inevitably happen, I would like to listen to the graphic audio next time. I listened to the regular audio this time.
Made it. I mean, for a reread, I think it was way more enjoyable doing the graphic audio.
I like the audiobooks. They're absolutely fine. I think there is something like you can get something different from it being read in a different form. So
no, same. And that's why I've been doing the reread that way. Because I'm like, well, I've read these the other ways, like with my eyes and audio. So let's do the graphic to see how it feels different.
Shake it up.
I think it was interesting too reading this because some of the things that people criticize, I was like, oh, wait, I had forgotten. Because I feel like one of the big things people really criticized in this series was the lack of diversity. And I mean, to be fair, like amongst the main characters, there's not a ton.
Yeah.
I don't know, like we have like a sort of Asian-ish character. Amryn is like shown
described that way. Yeah.
Described that way. And then we have a queer character with more, but then which we can talk more about that whole thing as well, which I think is interesting. But when they did the council where all of the different people from the courts were coming together, I thought that was really interesting because I had forgotten some of that like the the high what is he, the High Lord of the Day Court is black and like bisexual and like I don't know.
Well, we were talking about that with the first book, and I was like, no, there's stuff in book 3 I remember. But I couldn't remember what. But I was like, I know there's stuff in book 3, and then it happened, and I was like, yes, I remember.
Yeah,
there was actually a lot because they were talking about the people that came from the other place. I'll never remember their names because I don't remember names. But like the whole story of the seraphim that had like smaller wings, like she is with a woman, and they talked about that, and just the way that, although more obviously where she comes from, it's very not good and not and highly frowned upon. But like the rest of the group, when they talk about people who have partners of same sex, there's no like no judgment, no nothing. It's just they're just stating a fact.
Yeah. Part of me feels like watching, I don't know, like I'm reading this and I'm feeling like, were we all gaslit into thinking that there was no diversity in this world? Like that everyone was straight and white? Because it's not true. I mean, the main characters, sure, but like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I feel like that's
Well, they
the
talk a
way
lot
I heard
about
somebody
a lot
talk
of the
about it, and, like, it's
different.
not.
They talk about a lot of the different High Lords being darker
Various
skin toned and
yeah, like various
yeah.
kind of like
So, which
coded.
makes
it takes till book 3 though, like that.
They did talk about it some in book 2, but not nearly as much.
Not as much.
Yeah.
But I also think, but because they, with the people they were meeting, that, you know what I mean? But it's the same as like, if you live in a state that's an all white state, which doesn't exist. Let's go with countries. If you live in a country where it's like 97% white and those are the only people you ever see and you never travel anywhere, you're probably not going to talk about other people because you don't see them. So until you start traveling and seeing other types of people, you wouldn't mention them because you don't know that they are there.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, you know, and like it's up for debate. Like, does she do a good job with that? I don't know. I don't know that I'm the person to say that, but I do feel like it's worth saying that it's, you know, it's there. I don't know. It's interesting. Yeah, Nethel is with a woman. Thiessen, I don't know. High Lord of the Dawn Court is with a man. Also thought as well in Akamath, it was implied Reese was also bi. Feyre says something about how men or women flirted with him or something. Yeah, no, that's true. I think it's unclear. It's unclear if that's part of an act or if like that's actually the case. But yeah.
Well, there's also a part in this book where she says something about one of the other couples that is a threesome, and when he replies to her, he doesn't say, "You would like it to bring another woman to our bed." He says, "Man."
Yeah.
So
that's true. And she's kind of like, maybe.
I don't know. Depends on which one it is. Is it cute? I don't know.
You know, which it was funny because I'd also forgotten about it because I feel like then in Court of Silver Flames, we get this taken a step farther, sort of. I don't know. It's like, it's just interesting.
Yeah, it's a weird step, but it's there.
I just, it was just a lot of details that I was like, oh, I forgot that all this was in here.
I mean, I have not read this book since 2018. I realized when I marked it as a reread, so
yeah,
you know,
it's been a minute.
Yeah, absolutely.
Time. That is a long time in book world.
Yeah, I will say I don't love Feyre. Feyre is not my favorite heroine of hers. She's just,
you know, I don't hate anybody. Like nothing. Right now, where I sit right now in this, I just finished this book high. I don't hate anybody. They're all fine.
I don't hate her, but I don't super like her. I don't know, compared to some of her other main characters. Also, the thing is too, and it's, it is interesting the way that it deals with certain things, right? Like her pushing more on this issue and then more feeling like she has to come out and her having to reckon with like what she did there. And there's a lot of that. Like Feyre likes to push people in ways that are not necessarily good. So liked her, just kind of there for me. I cared more about a lot of the other characters as well.
Same.
I agree.
And I think she just, of her main characters, by this book, she's a lot stronger, but feels very like, I don't know, she's just kind of there in a weird way throughout some of them in moments.
Do you think it's written to be that way on purpose?
Yes.
And that Feyre herself cares more about other people than she cares about herself? And because we're in her head, we therefore care about the other characters than we care about her?
Yeah, I could see that.
That makes sense.
I also think she's like very self-insert-y written. So there's that.
I can see that. I feel like the place where we see something interesting from her the most is the beginning of the book when she's basically like a spy in Tamlin's court. I was like, oh, dang. I mean, and then she ends up ultimately feeling bad about some of the things that she did because it was kind of a lot. But
she kind of went off the edge a little bit. Again,
Yeah.
she was dealing with trauma of having watched what happened to her sisters at the end of the last book, and watching her friends be torn apart.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah,
trauma response.
Yeah, but then she very deviously, like, kind of sets things up to fall apart.
But
And
I
I was
feel like
kind of
rather
like,
than
he kind of deserves it. I mean,
It's Tamlin. He always deserves it.
I mean, I
That was-
made me feel bad for like the people under his rule who were ultimately harmed by it, I guess. But like, I don't know. Yeah,
you know what?
Tamlin
As
was
a
the architect
ruler,
of his own misfortune. I mean, yeah, this is true. If he hadn't been acting that way, she couldn't have done it.
by the end, though, honestly, I felt like he was on a very slow incline to redemption. Like he's very finely walking a redemption arc. And the way that people have talked about him for however long these books have been out, that I've been, hearing the things that I've been hearing all these years, I assumed that there was nothing that he did that was good. And I mean,
yeah,
I don't know. He really made me annoyed with how he treated Lucian at the end too.
It did.
Like
but
it was like he started to redeem himself, and then he does that, and I'm like,
have you
really?
learned anything though, or are you just doing this because you have to? I don't know.
Well, but my thing though with him is that he didn't react. He ignored him to an extent. Whereas in the past he would have flew off the handle.
That's true.
So was he ignoring him to give himself space to be able to calm down to have a normal conversation?
Maybe.
That's
true.
I don't know.
I think it's just really hard to redeem him after the like very abusive ex behavior at the gathering. I laugh because it's just like it's so funny when you're like revisiting this and like it happens and you're like, oh my god, yep, here it comes. I'm ready.
I was cackling. I was making dinner, listening to the audiobook, cackling at that whole the whole scene of them together because I'm like, what are you fucking doing, Tamlin? Oh my god.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing is like if it's like him helping to save Reese is redeeming, I'm like, I feel like that's like the least he could do.
Well, but he also saved her and helped her and Azrael escape when she saved Elaine, and he went back and was a spy a little bit, and so he did a couple of things that make me believe that he's redeemable. Not that I believe that he's been redeemed, but that he is redeemable.
Okay.
I can see that though. Like
prior to this book, I didn't even
think he could get a book, but I could see us getting a book where he is redeemed somehow in the text.
If you just want to talk about it at some point, I don't need to see it. If you just want to tell me that he did something nice later, that's fine.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah. You know what's funny? I think the scene I found most sad was the Surreal dying.
That was sad.
Right?
It was.
That was a sad scene. Well, because that's a character that we've grown comfortable with.
Also a fun character.
Yeah.
A fun character that is always a good time when they're on page. And then to lose that ability, like it's not just that you're losing the character, it's that that like moving on to the next book, we're not gonna have that. We can't have that fun.
Yeah. It was sad. I know. I was also sad the Surreal died. Crazy the 180 he did. Also surprised Lucian had never seen that side of him. Yeah. I mean, I guess I feel like he also kind of had to do a bit of a 180 to survive to a certain extent.
Yeah.
If he didn't really want to side with Hybern, which he didn't, those are kind of your options, is like go full villain and really help Hybern, or change your tune because you see the way things are going,
There was so much that happened at the it was, as I said in the Discord, it was like that scene in Helm's Deep in Lord of the Rings, where in the movies, not the books, because I know it's different, but like where the elves show up and like right at that final moment where you think all is lost, but they had that like 6 times at the end of this book. Like it just kept happening. Like someone would come in to save their asses and you'd be like, oh, finally. But then they would be beaten down again, and then someone else would show up. And it just kept happening over and over again.
Let's talk about the ending. What did people think about the ending?
I liked it. It was fine.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, do you have a specific part, I guess? Because it feels not rushed, but like it all comes together very, very quickly.
Yeah.
In a way. And then we have the stuff with Reese happen, and then we're like kind of wrapping it all up in a bow. Not like a complete bow, but you know what I mean? It's kind of getting like,
I mean, we have like the beheading,
bow,
which was gruesome, but kind of satisfying.
Yeah.
And then I don't know, like with the whole thing with the cauldron and
it felt like an hour plus of ending time.
It's a lot of ending. How did we feel about like Amren sacrificing her powers to the cauldron to save everybody?
I mean, she technically sacrificed herself to the cauldron to save everybody, and then sacrificed her powers to come back.
Right.
But still interesting. And I mean, that's just a way to play on your emotions to make you think that she was going to be gone forever, and then she gets to come back. But I would be very sad.
Magic, right? So.
Yeah, it's about world of magic. Anybody can come back at any time, obviously. I mean, how many times do we see that happen?
Yeah.
But I feel like to me, it's not funny, but it's funny how often, like, just the hoi polloi die and nobody cares, but because it's Reese and Amren, we got to make them come back. Like, do you know how many people died during that battle? We don't care about any of them.
Just you wait till we get to the Crescent City series.
People dying left and right.
Oh, but there are some like major comeback scenes. Like
The resurrections are resurrecting.
The resurrections are resurrecting. Yeah.
I mean, which is fine. I mean, I don't hate it. Obviously, I like it because I like the character and I want
either, but I also understand why people are annoyed at it because I'm like, I mean, yeah, it's a romance primarily, which is why I'm like, okay, whatever. You know. Yeah. Yes, Nesta is going to have a lot of trauma and feelings about her father dying right in front of her. Absolutely. Yeah, that's such an interesting thing that he comes back and sort of saves the day, even though he was a terrible father most of their lives.
I cried. I wept.
Yeah. And Jessica, you are absolutely right. Nesta is going to have a lot of that. And so stay tuned. That will be coming. Theories of what Amren is.
I don't, because I haven't read enough to know.
I don't know that I have one.
Yeah, I've wondered if maybe she was an Asteri.
You know what? Okay, I mean that's the thing, though, right? I could see that, right, tying into Crescent City stuff.
Yeah.
I think that has been a suggestion in the past. That was what she was.
Yeah, that's kind of theory. We'll see.
Yeah. To have a deadbeat dad who magically shows up and saves your life, like, come on, who doesn't want that?
Yeah.
I mean, ideally, you'd have a dad who wasn't a deadbeat dad, but like, how many of us are lucky to have that? I mean, you know.
Oh man.
I would like my dad to name a ship after me and come save my life. Would be great.
It's like he finally did something and then he died. That would be hard though, I feel, when you have a lot of anger over how he failed them for so long, and then like he died a hero, so how are you supposed to feel about that? What are you supposed to do with that? And I think that's explored really well with Nesta later. Yes, you don't get to speak to him and ask him. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I think there'd be a lot of unresolved feelings from that.
Again, not knowing what happens in later books, but I feel like they should, I feel like from that perspective, you would have enough information just from what he did in order to support you, and from what other people are telling them about how he talked to them about his daughters on the way there. That I think that as a daughter, you would struggle with it, but that you would feel like he loved you. And that, I think, is kind of the, people aren't perfect, but he did love you, and he's dead now, and you can't take anything back or change anything. So, like, let's just forgive the guy and move on. Because sometimes forgiveness is for you, not the other person.
Yeah. I think what's interesting, though, is that I think some of the sisters might feel that way and others won't. And I think that's really interesting that, like, they're going to handle that in different ways. But yeah.
Yeah.
As they will, because 3 people even living in the exact same environment are always going to handle things differently because everybody's different. So.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it took them, her sisters, how many books to get it together? And stop whining about becoming immortal and just like help and realize that maybe this is for the best. I don't know.
Yeah.
Nobody's perfect.
I know. I just want to give them shit for it. Because there are moments where I was like, just stop complaining. It's fine.
I mean, surely somebody from this group is perfect. I don't know which one, but maybe.
Oh, that would be interesting. Lucian having a flashback to meeting their father. Speaking of fathers, like the Lucian is the son of the High Lord of the Dawn Court, right?
I think it was Dawn, yeah.
Yeah, so that was an interesting thing.
It's weird that it appears that like his father and all of his brothers know, but he doesn't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like they treat him so poorly because they know or
suspect, but he doesn't.
Helion, yeah.
Helion.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, thank you.
Day Court.
Okay. Oh, Day Court. Thank you, Jessica.
Listen. We can't keep the court straight, okay?
There's a lot of
I don't have a map.
You know?
I don't have a map, okay?
Okay. Houston is Dawn Court, Helion is Day Court. Well, which one is the one that's like polyamorous? Is it Helion?
No, I think it's no. Yes, maybe it is Helion.
Maybe it is Helion.
I don't listen.
It's confusing. There's too
Sarah
many.
Sarah did us no favors with the names.
Oh, no.
Because Helion could be day or dawn, I feel like.
Oh my gosh. Helion, thank you. Okay. Yeah.
Do you have a map of these people in your brain, Jessica? Like,
that is really impressive. I feel like I need a tree.
I need like a royal family line map.
Yeah. I just feel pleased that I noticed so much more about the people in the other courts this time around, because I think I just like kind of breezed right past it the first time. Yeah, it's a lot of people, a lot of courts.
It is. I try to remember as much as I feel like it's going to be important, but which to me is like the people, and I know the people and things about them, but I don't know which court they belong to. Couldn't tell you. Which courts are next to each other? Couldn't tell you. No clue.
I don't know.
Give me a name, 50-50 chance I'd nail it. That's who it is.
Yeah,
which is fine. I mean, you put all of them together in a giant room surrounding a koi pond, which is a choice that Nesta threw up in, which makes it even better. And then, they all had like themselves plus their spouse plus their entourage. So there's like 50 people in a room, and you want me to remember who half of them are?
No.
Yeah, not happening.
Like, I get the vibe while it's happening, and then I'm not going to remember it. This is so impressive. A mental map of the whole island and courts. That I need that. That's great. Jessica.
See, I have a borderline photographic memory, so like if I had seen one at some point, it would exist, but I haven't seen one at any point, so it doesn't exist.
Jessica, I need you to draw it for us. Thank you.
Yeah, we need a map.
Right. Can you make us a map?
Put it up during the live stream.
Like, this is over here, and this is over here.
We just have a slide that lives up with like all the characters' names.
Yeah. Oh, I had also forgotten about the fact that what's his name, the guy that was trapped forever, was like secretly on their side.
The bone carver?
The J guy.
No.
Joran.
Gyrus.
Oh, Joran, yes.
Joran. Yeah. I had forgotten that he was secretly
just because giving us the order right now, and
this is kind of amazing.
Love this.
Night court, day, dawn, middle, winter, summer, autumn, spring, human lands. This is great. I love it. Yeah, I think this is true. Since we're only in Feyre's perspective, the world and characters are narrow. Yeah, because she doesn't know most of them very well. So it's just like, who is she interacting with? We're not getting a lot of description beyond that. I think it's kind of what she knows.
I think that's also why my brain just like immediately ejects information in a weird way. It's like, yep, okay, I'm here. Bye. Moving forward.
The other thing I noticed that I think is interesting setup for later in the series is we have and this started in the last book, but there's more talk about the Illyrian warriors and like them not wanting to let women train with them, and they're like, well, we'll deal with this after the war. And they will.
Yeah.
Like, that's gonna be a thing. So I think it's interesting. The wall thing was confusing the first time. Yeah.
I can see that.
Yeah. It just so much happens. I feel like it's a little much at times in this book.
It almost needed to be 2 books.
Yeah, it probably could have been. Thought the scene with Ianthe really showed Feyre's strength and development. Which scene with Ianthe? There were a couple. But though towards the beginning of the book, yes, I did, because I hate her, and we're supposed to. She's so terrible, but like I did really like seeing Feyre finally kind of like beat her at her own game.
Yeah.
Scene. Okay. Yeah.
Beating her hands in with rocks.
Yes.
Yeah, that was
interesting to have Feyre do, because I feel like, again, Feyre we met in book 1 would have never. No. And then by book 3 we have Feyre who's like, okay, we're going to war and I'm gonna figure this out, kind of.
She suddenly becomes as feral as Nesta.
Yeah. Yes. But it comes and goes. Yeah, I agree. I think this could have been 2 books. But I don't know.
You know what though? I appreciate an author that doesn't do that. Because like it could have been 2 books, but in order for it to be 2 books, there would be more filler in it, and we'd have to pay for it twice.
That's true.
This is true.
That's true.
She took out the the riffraff in the middle, smushed it down into 1 book, and we paid for it 1 time. I appreciate that. Like that's not a money grab to me.
Yeah,
that's fair.
I just think we could have gotten a little more of the war stuff, I guess, if we would have had 2 books.
Yeah. Although, to be fair, I don't know that I really want a lot more of the war stuff.
Yeah, I don't know.
I also don't think that writing battle scenes is her strength. For the most part.
They're hard.
I never listen. I feel like when I read Sarah J. Maas battle scenes, I'm just like, yep, things are happening. Okay, cool, things are happening.
People are dying. It's chaotic.
Like my brain's just like, okay, we're here. Okay, now we're over with this thing happening. Okay, now we're done. Yeah. Like it just like my brain does not process the battle. Like it does. Like when it's a well-written one, I can like kind of see it. But with Sarah J. Maas, I'm like, it's blobs, just all everywhere.
I feel like it depends. She has some good Crescent City battle scenes, I think, actually.
I think that part, also the 1 POV does not help.
No.
For battle scenes.
Yeah. I don't mind a lot of the extra bits in the Crescent City series, but it'll be interesting rereading all of them to see. Find them boring when it's 1 character's POV, hence why Kingdom of Ash utilize. See, this is the thing, is I actually found the Kingdom of Ash battle scenes very boring. So, like, it's part of why it's not one of my favorite books. Like, I think it's a really good series ender, but I just was like, oh my gosh. But I'm not so I prefer usually prefer battle scenes through one character's POV because then I care more about their experience of the battle, but I also understand that there are people who like reading battle scenes who feel oppositely, which is fair. Yeah. That's interesting.
I kind of fall in the middle. It really depends on how I feel like it's written. I do think, again, she learned from this one a little bit and then applied that to Kingdom of Ash because we're reading in publication order.
Right. True. I think that's true. Thought the scene where the cauldron takes Feyre to Nesta during the battle was an interesting way to get around the whole single POV during war bits. Yeah.
Yes.
That is true.
The cauldron is such a fascinating plot device, I feel like, to an extent.
It does a lot of things.
But if you're going to try to get around the single point of view during the war, why have a chapter from Rhysand's point of view? Like, why is there just one chapter of Rhysand's point of view? That doesn't really even show anything that couldn't be shown from her point of view. Like, why is that even there?
It's just for fun. She does this in other books too. Like, she always does a chapter from Rhysand's point of view.
I mean, I know, and she did it in the last book too. And so in my brain, typically when you get one chapter from a person's point of view at the end of a book, that typically means in the next book that it will be a dual point of view. No. And I guess I kind of forgot that until I got to his point of view in this one. And I was like, oh yeah, there was a point of view. This is weird. Okay.
She just likes to do a chapter from his POV. It's the same thing in Court of Frost and Starlight. There's one chapter with his POV. It's just like a thing she does. I don't know.
Silver Flames is dual though, isn't it?
Silver Flames is also not first person.
Okay. I was like, Silver Flames changes stuff, I thought.
Yeah, Silver Flames changes things, yeah.
But it's third person instead of first person.
What did y'all envision the cauldron as? Like
a witch's cauldron?
Like a witch's cauldron? I thought I had legs. I don't know why my brain decided
that. So we talked about this during the last live stream because I realized that when I was reading it that it's described as a bathtub with like clawfoots. So I think it's like a big black iron bathtub, clawfoot bathtub.
Okay. Because, like, I was thinking about that. I was like, wait, she was, like, drowning in the cold. Like, which it's magic, I know. And then I was like, is this, like, some Howl's Moving Castles? It's a weird cauldron with, like, weird legs.
It's like a Mary Poppins bathtub.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that tracks. I don't know. For some reason, my brain put legs on the cauldron. This read through it. I was like, this is really funny to me.
That's fair. Did we like having only Feyre's point of view throughout the series apart from chapters here and there? I mean, I don't mind it.
I think with as large of a cast of characters as this is, that had there been more point of views, we would have been more confused instead of less confused.
I don't disagree with you.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like maybe you could do a dual POV, but I understand why she wouldn't want to do Rhys as a primary POV because he knows too much.
Yeah.
You know? Like, so I kind of actually think Feyre is a good choice if you're going to do that.
Yeah, everyone else kind of like would know too much about stuff. Whereas with Feyre, we're learning it together.
Yeah. So I feel like it's a good choice if you're going to do that. There's a scene with Irene in the Tower of Dawn and the Torre where there's a dungeon with a ton of bathtubs, but not sure if that's connected. I have no idea. That's interesting. Well, although we do know from the Crescent City series that every world has a cauldron of some sort.
Mm-hmm. Which is not surprising, I don't think.
It's the primordial ooze holder that creates all of the life.
Now, whether they're all shaped like bathtubs is another question, but this is Feyre's story in the trilogy. It makes sense that it's only her POV. That's fair. Like when authors are consistent throughout a series with POV. Glad she stuck with yeah. I am pretty okay with like authors changing stuff with POVs, but I do think for this trilogy it made sense to do it. I know there are some people who didn't like that Silver Flames was third person for the most part, except for Feyre's chapters. I think Feyre's chapters are still first person.
So here's the thing that, like, last book when we were talking about the way that Sarah builds characters, I also mentioned, I feel like the way she writes her characters and the way that her character relationships are done are very similar to the way that Cassandra Clare does her characters. Like, they both of them, I enjoy their books because of their character relationships.
Yeah.
Found family aspects, the way their character, like, they're not the best written books by any sense of the word. Their battle scenes are both lacking at points, but their character work, I think, is done really well. So this shows you the two differences of Sarah chose to write from one character's point of view, and it's fairly easy to keep up with who people are. I mean, are we over here struggling? Yes, but it's not awful. But Cassie writes from all kinds of points of views, and half the time you don't even know which character's point of view you're in because she muddles the point of view so much that you're like, wait, whose brain am I in right now? So it may be to Sarah's advantage that she chose to stay in one point of view.
Honestly, that's a good point. I definitely see what you're saying, especially in later books when we get like so many POVs in Cassie's books.
Yeah, I think this is too many characters to literally give that many POVs. And then again, you would know way too much.
Yeah. Yes, Libba Bray does do this in the Diviner series too. I think she does a better job of, I mean, it's been a long time since I read those and I never finished the series, but I remember her doing a little bit of a better job of differentiating the character voices, though. I don't know. This is also where audiobooks with a full cast can really help.
Yes.
With books like that.
100%.
But, yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. Other things. Okay, I remember people complaining, and I personally don't understand why people are so upset about this, but I figure let's talk about it. I remember hearing people complain about the fact that Feyre and Rhys have sex in a tent in the middle of a war.
Oh, I mean, that's just romance to me.
Yeah,
like, it's
and
a danger
also
bang.
I'm like, yeah. Well, and also like, I don't know. Isn't that a thing people sometimes want to do when they're in like life or death situation? I mean, maybe not everybody does, but like, don't some people?
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah,
it's a danger bang.
I've heard, yeah.
It even happens in Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Yeah,
like it's like a trope to do that.
It's trope. Like, but also, Sarah points out how absurd it is. She says it when she's discussing that it's a thing they're doing. She's like, "This is weird," but so she checks herself on it, and I can appreciate
also, like,
that.
High stress, you know.
Yeah,
just a little stress relief.
Yeah,
could be your last time. Who knows? Almost was.
You don't know. And that's why, like, I wasn't bothered by it, but I think it's funny because I remember people being like horrified. People are dying outside, and you're just all you can think about. And I'm like, yeah, but like, isn't that being like, listen, this is what we have, the moments of life before we might die. I don't know. Like, why is that a bad thing?
But, like, this is the thing where it's like, obviously those people to me are like not romance readers because like this happens so often in romance books. Like, we are on the run from the bad guy and we're going to stop here and bang though first.
Why not?
Yeah.
That's true. That's very true. Yes. Celebrating life in that moment too. So it makes sense. Yeah. Death is everywhere. Let's celebrate life. I mean, I agree. I'm kind of with you.
Yeah.
But.
And she does too, clearly, because that's what she says.
Yeah.
Life and death existing at the same time in the same place. And so I was expecting it to be so much worse than it was, again, because I've heard so much about it over the years and like how much people are just like completely upset by it. And I read it and I was like, is that what they were talking about? Because that wasn't that bad.
Yeah, that's what they're talking about. I feel like
I expected there to be another one somewhere that was way worse.
No.
But I was just
like
also
people are like, these books are so spicy and they're so sexy. And I'm like, they're
not.
They're like a 2.
Mm.
A 1 would be like, you know, we don't even get it on page. This is a lot of fade to black. A lot of fade to black.
Yeah.
Listen,
And
I
for how
don't
many
need
pages
super spicy books.
we're reading, like, there's not that much. Now,
Yeah.
she makes up for it in A Court of Silver Flame.
She does. I'm just saying, like, this whole series is like a 2. People are like, oh, you know, the second book is so, like, chapter 54 or whatever. Like, I'm just like, I could give
it's
y'all
fine.
like 20 things
It's
that are
not
like
like
50 hotter. It's fine. It might
this
scar
is
you.
true. Oh yeah,
know,
5 billion level spice for YA in 2017. I mean, that's true,
Yeah.
but that's part of the issue is that this was being sold as YA. So
This is also true. I just
which
every time it
in
makes
no
me giggle.
way
Like,
does this read as YA.
the series is not YA.
It's not.
Well, in 2017 and also in today, a woman is not allowed to write adult fantasy. So you have to, it has to be YA.
Yeah.
She's a woman and it's fantasy. So obviously.
Now you're Roman Empire. I love this.
Yeah.
Listen, we're on the same plane, Laura.
Yeah. No, I'm not classifying it as YA. And it's not sold as YA
I don't
anymore.
either.
They've updated
No, they fixed it.
Yeah.
It was more of an imprint issue, is the way I view it. Like, they were like, well, Throne of Glass starts YA. And I feel like you start moving out of YA in that one even.
Yeah. I mean, Throne of Glass, I'm more okay with it being upper YA. I feel, but yeah.
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 Yes.
Like, we all know how things got to where they are.
Yeah,
but
it was a marketing decision. She didn't write it as YA specifically, which I think you can tell when you read it. Yep. Yeah, but they finally figured it out, and you know.
Then they changed those ugly ass covers and made it adult.
I do think it's so interesting doing this reread because I've heard
covers.
so many complaints about this series over the years since I read it. And so I've had all of those in my head and was like, yeah. And rereading it, I'm like, wait. Like, what were people complaining about? I mean, it's fine if you just don't like her books. It's not your thing. Like, whatever. Fine. You know, you criticize her world building if you want, like fair. But some of the stuff people complain about, I'm like, okay.
Yeah, some of the complaints, I'm just like, I think she's just not for you, and that's okay.
That's fine.
And I think as far as like entry points, I much prefer this as an entry point over like Colleen Hoover to romance because this at least features romance, whereas Colleen Hoover does not. I'm also team original covers, and I have an original cover signed that just lives in my office.
I didn't like the original covers either. I don't like any of the covers. I'm like, maybe one day we'll get better covers.
I hate the new covers.
We have fantastic covers. You just have to buy them separately.
Exactly.
I mean, these are gorgeous.
Those are
pretty.
Those are pretty.
I love these. I bought my kid her own set, so she can't borrow mine.
That's great.
As you should.
I bought her the regular ones, just like the plain paperback with the ugly cover on them. And I was like, here's yours. Don't touch mine.
That recover is so bad.
It's so ugly.
The neon, like, what is going on?
I get what they were going for with like the tattoo thing because that kind of has so much plays into, but they did not do it well.
No. Yeah, I don't love them. This I agree with. Her world building is lacking, but she shines in character work. I agree with this.
Agree.
I don't know if that's true, that it looks less adult. I don't know that I agree with that. I just don't really like them, but
I just think it looks like
Jessica
not what it is.
Covers. Great.
You're allowed to like. You're allowed to like what you like.
That's fine.
And you're allowed to be wrong.
You're allowed to be wrong.
Oh my god. Yeah, I don't know. I just think it's really interesting doing a reread and being like, oh, this is not as all of the things people said it was. Because there are things that are questionable about some of her early writing in the Throne of Glass series, which we have talked about at length, you know, the way Nehemia was handled, all of that. But it is interesting rereading this series where I'm like, well, actually, like it doesn't have all the same problems people criticized it for. So I don't know. Yeah,
it makes me feel like she actually took some people's criticism to heart at some point and tried to be better. And I don't know that she necessarily excelled at that, but I feel like maybe she tried.
I think so. And I think we get even more of that in the Crescent City series. We get like more key characters who are like queer and people of color and stuff. Like that's even more sort of prominent, I would say, than it was in this series.
I can't wait.
But the other side is like you don't necessarily want her being the one to write main characters who are queer and people of color. You know, like it's great. I would like her worlds to be populated with a diverse set of characters, but I also don't necessarily need Sarah J. Maas to be like writing those point of view characters for me. You know?
Yeah, no, same. I don't need her main POVs to be that.
Yeah.
As someone who is a white person who lives in a predominantly white area, who also writes books, it is hard to decide how to include people that are not like yourself because you don't want to not go far enough, but you also don't want to go too far.
Right.
Exactly. And no matter what you do, someone is going to tell you that you're wrong and that you're insensitive and a racist or a homophobe of some sort. So you really just have to like figure out what works for you and what you're comfortable with doing. And that may be your comfort level. That may be the end of her comfort level. So
yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I mean, I think more. I think it's okay. Like, I don't hate it. Like, you know, I want more, and I'm hoping later in the series we will get additional context. Yeah, I think it's interesting that people disagree and want that from her, but I agree. She's not the voice to deliver. Like, she is a straight white woman. Like, why do we want her to deliver those stories specifically? Like, yeah, I want her to have a diverse world that her characters exist in, but I don't like there are plenty of other people who are writing great fantasy, great romance, who are telling those stories that we can read, you know?
Yeah.
Hi, Mel. Mel had her baby, who is adorable, and congratulations. Thanks for saying hi.
Snuggle the baby.
Yes, thank you. It's fun. It's very short, like, but it's been easy. I guess for context, I had an undercut for years that I decided to grow out, and it was just getting annoying because I had these pieces, and then I had like long hair, and I was like, I just need a cohesive haircut so it can like grow together. So it's been fun.
I mean, it'll grow out. It grows back.
It does.
Yeah,
like,
I must grow my hair,
and I don't hate it. Like I think it's cute.
It's cute. It's fun.
Something different.
Short hair can be fun.
Yeah. I haven't gone this short since like middle school, so I also feel sort of like, oh, okay. I feel good that I know I can do this and feel okay about it. Get because of her reach and success, you wanted to be front and center, but you have the wrong person telling. Yeah, I agree with this. And I think and again, like I think there are a lot of great writers who are the right people to be telling those stories, who are doing it, you know? Like,
well, and I think also in her genres that she's writing in is one of the hardest genres, in my opinion, for romance, at least, to find authors of color writing. It's gotten better, but
like we forget, like Nalini Singh has been in it for a long time.
Yes. No, absolutely. You know? But like,
but there's
that's
not as
one of like when these were coming out, one of the handful of authors, and that's like a lot of people's default, obviously. And now we have like Nisha Toli, right? Is that right? I don't know. I can't see it on my shelf. And we have more now than we did, so which is good.
It's happening.
It's just this. I would say the romantasy genre has been the slowest growth I've seen in finding that.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's more of it. There's more of it coming out. Who else? Oh gosh, it's escaping me now. But there are more, but it's slower. Oh, that's so sweet. I love it. Yeah. Well, or even like I mean, I don't know. People are on the fence about, but I loved Immortal Dark by Tika Skirma, which is, I would say, like the dark side of romantasy with like vampires and stuff that I really enjoyed. I don't know. Like I think there are more people.
Yeah, no, there's definitely more now. Like I said, it's I just think about when this came out.
Yeah, right, absolutely. Yaris has been praised for Fourth Wing with representation of disabilities, POC, LGBTQ, all the while insulted for how she described Xaden. You can, I mean, yeah.
Well, I think some of it too is like, it's also how fans interpret things sometimes that causes the like backlash too, right? Because, you know, I think about there's certain books where the character's curvy and every fan art is a skinny girl.
Yeah.
You know? And not like the authors commissioning art. I mean, like they get fan art for the book and it's like a skinny character.
Yeah.
Like we see that all the time. Yeah. So I feel like the same thing happens when somebody is described as a person of color. And then they just get whitewashed.
Well, I mean, you think about what happened when they made the Hunger Games movies and people were in an uproar that Rue was black, even though she is clearly described as being black in the books. Like, I think that's part of the thing too, is let's like people
just skip over descriptors.
Yeah, lack of comprehension when they're reading. Yeah. Yep. Like the Bat Boys are men of color and everyone has them as white. Yeah.
Yep. But like some people read, like that's the thing, is like the way they're described, I guess, is like, to me reads that way, but I guess to other people it reads as just like a tan guy, not a like man of color.
And I have heard people argue that that's part of the problem, is that when it's not like specifically like clearly described, that it's more sort of wishy-washy and like exoticizing. I don't know. So I mean, I get it. I think it's complicated. How do you do that well? It's hard. Realm Blade. Oh, interesting. I haven't read Realm Breakers. I don't know. Description can be a bit ambiguous. Yeah, whereas Helion's description is not ambiguous. Like he's described as having like dark brown skin. Like I don't know. Like I'm like, yeah.
Well, and I also think it's difficult to explain the race of a character in a fantasy world where our races don't exist. Because you can describe someone's skin tone and you can describe if they have something about them that is non-humanoid, which the Illyrians do, but otherwise you're just describing a skin tone. And so people are just gonna be like, well, they're white with a tan, you know, like,
Yep. Which, this is true. To this point, golden brown could mean a variety of things. Yeah, no, I think that's true. Yeah.
People also think that Jesus is white, so come on. They're gonna do whatever they want.
Is true.
Lucian is described as tan, like dark, and everyone is like, oh, is he Jamie Fraser? Are we thinking of the same person? Well, you know what it is? It's like I've seen people make like skits or jokes about realizing that like when people would say tall, dark, and handsome, they meant like Italian. Like I don't know, you know what I mean? Like I don't know. It's
No, I've seen that too, and I was like, oh, that is not what I thought that meant at all. So here we are.
So
honestly, when I heard it as like a teenager and in my 20s, I just thought it meant that like they had dark hair and dark eyes.
Yeah.
So
that's kind of where I went.
Exactly what I think a lot.
And then also now, like it more broadly encompasses other attributes, I guess.
It's just the way that the society has trained our brains to think about people.
Well, but I think that's the thing. That's the problem, right? Is like if if you live in society where like whiteness is sort of always centered, those are the assumptions that are made, and
it's not cool, man.
Yeah. It's complicated. I don't know. I mean, I think there are interesting conversations happening around what are our best practices for writing these sorts of things. And I also just think we have a lot more authors who are publishing who are people of color themselves and are doing that. And like
we have a lot more own voices or own representation happening, which is fantastic and exciting to see.
Absolutely. Okay, anything else we wanted to talk about with this book?
I'm dreading a court of...
I feel like I'm forgetting something I want to talk about. I'm trying to remember what it was, but
I don't know. I know I'm dreading the little novella because I hated it last time, so I'm very curious to see my thoughts this time.
Oh, I remember what I wanted to talk about. So the realization that the bone carver was appearing to her as what their kid would look like.
Yeah.
I forgot too, and that I think is interesting. That I think is also going to be interesting with reading the novella.
Yes.
So.
Agreed.
Yes.
Jess isn't because she has no idea yet. Just be prepared to be disappointed.
Well, I also just think maybe my experience will be better now that I know what to expect. Yeah, I mean, I hated it too, but also, you know, it came out in May. It was sold as a hardcover when they weren't really doing that for novellas. It was like hyped up as something so much more than what it is, which is just like a cozy Christmas story with these characters for the most part.
Yeah. Oh
yeah.
Yeah, I did love Braxis. They were very fun. Braxis, whatever. I keep wanting to call it the name of Manon's dragon.
Abraxas. Yeah. Why did we go with Triaxis and Abraxas? That seemed like
too close a name.
Triaxis and Abraxos. Yeah, that's too similar.
Yeah.
It seems like a choice.
Mm-hmm. It really threw me this time because I was like, wait, what? I was like, that's not what this thing is named.
No.
I am kind of interested to know like what it is. Like why did it scare Cassian so much? Cassian's afraid of nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yet that thing he wouldn't even describe to Reese because he was so terrified of it.
Yeah.
I think it just seems like a very jokester monster thing, and I love that.
But I kind of love that what it wants is a window.
A window? Yeah. He's like, I just need a window, thanks.
I kind of love all the monsters. They're great.
I do too.
Does at any point in the next 2 books does she actually go to find it to return it to the library? Because they mention that at the end of the book. He tells her she's going to have to go and get it and return it to the library, and she's like, "Oh, I know."
I don't remember. I feel like maybe it happens off page, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Access wants a window.
Listen, who doesn't? Yeah. Give me a window. It'll be great.
Yeah.
I am not.
She does not.
I'm not pressed about the novella just because I've heard so many people talk about how bad it is. So it's just like.
I mean, the novella has a couple of absurd sex scenes that I was like, what are we doing?
I mean,
which is fine. You know?
So, you know.
Every book's got to have a couple.
Yeah. I'm going to do the graphic audio for sure on the novella. Hopefully it helps.
I'm just going to listen to it regular, but when I do my rereads, I will do graphic audio, but I'm going to stay consistent with the regular audio through the series.
I'm going to do the regular audio too. I think I read all of these physically the first time. So, yeah. Good with let's just hang with these characters. Yeah, I like that part of it too. I think the worst parts for me honestly were the sex scenes in the novella because I was like, why are we doing this?
I don't remember them, so I can't wait. Because my brain's probably be like, oh yeah, this is why I hated this.
They're like, I have very strong recollections.
I think
they were imprinted on you a little there.
Yeah.
If I had read it with the issues that there are, you know, of it being a novella that you paid full price for a hardcover and it was a Christmassy novella released in May, I probably also would be pissed at it. But I feel like because we're reading it when we are and because, you know.
We're trying to make it the best
experience. I do think reading it when we are is going to make it a better experience also.
I do think so too. Yeah, I agree.
Because, that was just like,
I agree. It does switch up the POV and sets the stage for Silver Flames. Yep.
Did we have a date for? We didn't have a date for Silver Flames.
No, when this came out, no, we did not.
Like we had no idea.
Yeah.
Like we had no confirmation. I think that Nesta was coming as a book.
No, but this really does do a few things that set the stage for it. I'm excited. I am excited to reread it. I think I won't hate it as much. I think it was like I gave it like 2 stars the first time I read it.
I'll be happy if it's a 3.
That'd be great. We'll see. Which will be soon because it's short, so we're not going to wait as long.
Mm-hmm.
And it is our last book for the year.
Yes.
So, yeah, I think we don't have a date specifically, but it'll be sometime probably within the first week of December. We'll do a live stream. That is very possible. I do also love Nesta. That's, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see. So we'll be back with that, and then we will break. And then our next live stream won't be until February, end of February, because we're doing the
Tandem read.
The tandem read.
I'm very excited for that.
Throne of Glass books. I'm excited too. It'll be fun. So it'll be a minute. Yeah. All right. Well, thanks everybody for joining us. This was fun. And yeah, it's been a positive reread for me, I feel.
Yeah.
I've enjoyed
it. Went better than I expected.
I love Kale.
I do too. But I know that the tandem read is reading it that way is supposed to give a much better experience overall anyways. And tie a lot together. So I'm excited to see.
That'll be fun. I know. Like we'll
see you in February and tell you how.
We'll see you in February and we'll talk about it. But join us early December for Court of Frost and Starlight. Thanks everybody. And we'll see you next time. Bye.